views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of BronxNet or the program underwriters.
Well, coming up on this edition of Perspectives, we again highlight the significance of Juneteenth and how one community organization here in the Bronx is commemorating the oldest known celebration to end slavery in America. That, plus a whole lot more on this edition of Perspectives with yours truly, Daren Jaime.
What's on your mind? Express what's on your mind. What's on your mind?
Anything relevant to life, you bring it to the table. Whether you make a move solo or a movement with a stable. No fables, you speak on your decisions. Cause in the long run, it's your voice, your views, your vision. Keeping it real with many messages for you to know. This ain't radio, but DJ runs the show. Entertainment, he rocks it. Politics, he locks it. The host with the most would handle any topic. Don't forget to share your perspective with shines of light. Cause it might make a difference in someone else's life.
Make a difference in someone's life. Express what's in your heart and your mind. Share your perspective.
What's your perspective? Let them know.
And hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Perspectives. I am Daren Jaime, and of course, we thank you for joining us. As always, you can watch our show every week here on Bronx's Channel 67. Then we also encourage you to stay connected to us on our website, bronxnet.org, and then our social media platforms at BronxNet TV. Now, if you're trying to reach me personally, well, this is how you do it. Reach me on Facebook. My professional page is Daren C. Jaime, and then also on Instagram and Twitter at DC Jaime 23. Well, we talk about Juneteenth, the holiday. It's a holiday that's becoming more progressively accepted in America, and in some circles, still a lot of tension, a lot of pushback. But let's talk about it for a minute. What does it mean, particularly here in New York State? What does it mean for the culture? Well, here now, we're pleased to be joined by our very special guest who will be sharing with us on today's show. She is the founder and CEO of Creating Unity in the Community. We're pleased to welcome Debra Oguamah to be with us. And Debra, good to have you here on Perspectives.
I would like to say thank you for having me on your show, and what a pleasure, finally, to talk about Juneteenth to all of my Bronxites.
Yeah, and thank you for being with us. And so let's begin by asking this. For you, let's go back to, I'll ask the very beginning question. For somebody who still may not be familiar with Juneteenth, tell us a little bit about Juneteenth.
Okay, Juneteenth is the day, of course, Emancipation Proclamation, when Governor Granger, he was led by the Union Colored State Troopers. They were the ones that really urged the government that another state, the state of Texas, had not been free after the rest of the states in the country was already free. So they were the ones who went to, and it was also a soldier or a trooper from New York area also went on that campaign to Galveston, Texas, to alarm the people there that slavery has ended and that now you're free to, regain your life, regain your family life, and you don't have to work or be chattel slaves and work for nothing anymore. You can leave these plantations. And we already know, again, some of the other history during that time. During that period, even though Texas did not get the word that they were free when the order came down from President Lincoln at the time. So what they did was they got other Blacks from other parts of the country to also work that harvest for those remaining 2 years. So people that were already free was also captured and led to Texas for another 2 years of labor for their harvest.
Yeah. And so when we look at it right now, we know that governments have now recognized Juneteenth as a holiday. We know here in New York State, recognize the holiday. Other parts of the country recognize it as a holiday. What can states really do to honor Juneteenth other than just doing the symbolic political move?
Okay, a lot of states do not have Juneteenth as a holiday. We know last year Governor Cuomo and also the state of Maryland proclaimed that Juneteenth is a statewide holiday. I have myself been working for the past 15 years with National Juneteenth observance. And my mentor with that, with the founder of, his name was Dr. Myers. He was from Mississippi. And I had got in contact with Doc Myers so that I can learn a lot about Juneteenth, but I can also help in the efforts of the petitions so that Juneteenth could be a statewide observance. And upon me doing that, he put me in contact with the Brownsville Heritage Center in Brooklyn. And the director there, they had just signed off along with Senator Sampson at the time. This was in 2005. The governor was Pataki, and they had just signed off for the state of New York as Juneteenth as an observance. So upon that, that bill was already introduced in the Senate, but a lot of people, especially here in the Bronx, did not know anything about Juneteenth. So for those periods of time, for those couple of years, I still went around doing petitions in order to bring Juneteenth awareness, but also to recognize Juneteenth as a national federal holiday. So that also took a lot of effort in trying to educate people about the Juneteenth. But it was also one lady that also had inspired us, because at that particular time, we had over 47 states or more, except for Hawaii, North Dakota, and South Dakota, that did not sign on as Juneteenth as a national observance. So what happened was that there's a lady, her name is Miss Opal. She's from Texas. She's 93 years old. She has been walking across America trying to get Juneteenth as a federal holiday. She has gave us the torch of this national organization that's also international as well, because Doc Myers, he passed away 2 years ago, and he really instilled a lot of us all across this country and internationally. But Miss Opal, being a member also of National Juneteenth Observance, she said before she rests that she wants to see this as a federal holiday. She went and spoke with Bernie at the time, Bernie Sanders. He was running for president. And again, trying to urge our congressional members, our U.S. senators, signing off on this bill. So, saying all of that, we have a new president. His name is Steve Williams, and they have presented the bill again to the previous president. And of course, we know what happened. He reneged on the bill. The bill is he reneged on the bill, and he stated that he was going to Tulsa on top of it. So that was the news that really took off and really took fire into others from all across the country, not only knowing what Juneteenth is, but also what the Juneteenth flag is and represents, and how we have commemorative celebrations all throughout the country. I was the first one in 2019 to raise that Juneteenth flag here in Parkchester, at Virginia Park. So again, that's why I'm going around and raising the flag to making Juneteenth awareness, because right now we have that bill. The bill is called the 1320 bill with our congressional members, which we have enough votes for that. I think we have over 160 something members with that bill. And as I understand it, Yvette Clarke out of Brooklyn, the congressional member, is the co-chair of that bill. But right now, as we speak, the Senate, the U.S. senators, we are urging our U.S. senators across the country to sign that bill. And the bill is the 475. That bill,
Yeah, let me jump in because I got to take a quick break. I'm going to come back. We'll talk more about Bill 475. I want to talk a little bit more about public awareness and how woke are we as a people when it comes to knowing about Juneteenth. Stay tuned. We'll return with more show coming up right after this.
Raised up at Bronxborough Hall is the Juneteenth flag representing the celebration of the abolition of slavery, with this year's flag ceremony observed simultaneously in 3 locations across the city, including right here at Borough Hall.
Now, they didn't have radio back then. They didn't have cable vision. They didn't have social media. They didn't have cell phones. They didn't have phones.
Bronxborough President Ruben Diaz Jr. joined leaders to recognize the holiday that traces back to June 19, 1865, over 2 years after President Abraham Lincoln issued the Emancipation Proclamation on January 1, 1863, ending slavery. The slaves in Texas, though, had to wait an additional 2.5 years before Union Army leader Major General Gordon Granger marched into Galveston, Texas, with 2,000 troops to announce that the Civil War had ended and that all former slaves were now free.
Think about what that must have been like for those who either knew or heard it through the grapevine someplace who were still enslaved, or perhaps they didn't know, and it took a major general in the U.S. Army to go into Texas to say, no, what's going on here is going against the president's order and proclamation.
Me being a Bronx native is something I care solely about, and it's good information and good history for everybody to pass on and not forget.
Staff Sergeant Brandon Burke was among those appreciating the history lesson provided by healthcare advocate Jocelyn LeBron and Ron Brown from Project Africa Restoration.
Project African Restoration is an organization that basically helps the community at large.
Reminding those gathered that the day also marked the 100th anniversary of the Tulsa Massacre, where more than 300 African Americans were killed in a race riot, was the first African American woman in New York State to serve as district attorney. Bronx District Attorney Darcel Clark shared that she stood on the shoulders of the slaves of Texas and those who lived in the town of Tulsa, dubbed the Black Wall Street.
They own their own businesses and schools and churches and everything. And it was all destroyed by racist mobs because they didn't want to see them have what they thought the others should have.
The ceremony included the reading of the Emancipation Proclamation by Education Director for the Office of the Bronx Borough President's Office, Monica Majors. Along with the Bronx, the Harlem State Office building hosted a ceremony along with Brooklyn Borough Hall. So what the organizers want the public to know is that there are 47 states that now observe Juneteenth Day, and that there is a bill right now in the Senate, H.R. 1320, that looks to observe it as a federal holiday. For BronxNet, this is Arlene Makoko.
Back here on Perspectives, our guest, Debra Oguamah, who's been sharing with us about the Juneteenth holiday. And Debra, before we went to break, you were sharing a little bit about the bill itself, talking about the bill. And you talked about public awareness, how you actually went out and made people more and more aware about Juneteenth. Share with me a little bit about that. When you told people the history, what Juneteenth symbolized, and the push for a holiday, what was the awareness like within the community?
And I have to really honestly say that when I went around to my fellow Bronxites, a lot of people were very reluctant. They did not want to sign the petition. They did not want to go online and get additional information. At the time, I was giving out pamphlets so that people can also read about it and tell their children about it, and tell people that there's an organization that has been around, National Juneteenth Observance, and it's also international as well, that we were going around making awareness. We have a committee that is also pushing that Juneteenth be included in public schools all across America as well. The only time I felt any compassion or celebration of Jubilee was when I went to Brooklyn. When I went to the festivals, they also had a table doing petitions. Of course, in Harlem, a friend of mine have been doing Juneteenth parades in Harlem. There's another assembly person that have been doing Juneteenth parades also in Far Rockaway. So other people have been doing Juneteenth. It's close. We also have New Rochelle. So it's been very difficult, but it feels like now people are starting to really receive it, because we know what happened last year when it completely just blew up, and
Right.
it was all over the media. And we are so happy for that. But again, we cannot stop there, because it is not a federal holiday, and it's only 2 states, New York and Maryland, as I understand. We need all 50 states, and we need that bill to go through the U.S. senators, because congressional members, they get it. They're in 100, support of this. But we need the other members in Congress, in the Senate, to sign off on it.
Well, Debra, I will say this, that when we talk about New York picking up on it, I think that New York and Maryland, they pick up on it late. And the reason why they picked up on it late was because last year more people were woke, and that's when New York decided to go forward with Juneteenth. But it was after George Floyd. It was after Ahmaud Arbery. It was after Breonna Taylor. And it was in the height of this Black Lives Matter movement that was really protesting the death of unarmed Black Americans happening across the country. And so, yes, I do think that people are catching on. and they're becoming woke. But the reality is that America has to admit that they've done something wrong. And in the process of police brutality, that's what this whole Black Lives Matter is. But to admit Juneteenth has to admit the horrible wrong of slavery. And unfortunately for white America, that's not something that many white Americans want to realize.
You're absolutely correct in saying that, because it will open up the floodgates to everything else. There's also a bill about the Buffalo Soldiers and how many blacks have forged the West and pushed back from staying on their land there. There's a lot going on behind that. Again, it's reparations. Um, it's a whole lot. So that's why we have to constantly keep pushing it over and over again, because they have to wake up at some period of time, because we have to wake up, you know, and continue on with doing as much as we can in order to keep our community intact. Right here in the Bronx, I think I got a lot of flack also because they have a slave burial ground that, again, there was capital funds given to that slave burial ground in Hunts Point. And again, that has been pushed back. All of the history with that has been pushed back. There are so many landmarks right here in the Bronx that a lot of that information is being disintegrated as we speak. So that's why these things are important. It's good that people are doing parades and barbecues and having recognition for Juneteenth, but it means a lot more if this country does not completely atone, and not only atone consciously, but atone far as maybe adding that addendum in the Constitution as well, giving up the land, giving up the resources that they owe us for being chattel slaves, working for hundreds of years without any wages at all. Others have received their reparations and they have made it known. And we should never forget that. You know, the indigenous people are receiving reparations. The Jews are receiving reparations. Japanese have received reparations. There are certain Chinese have also received reparations or land ownership. We cannot forget those things. That's why it is so important to educate, re-educate, reaffirm all of these cultural events that we have, because that was one of the first things that was stripped from us: our language, our name, our culture, who we worship, all stripped away.
And when you strip away a person's history, obviously you don't know from whence you've come. It's our job to tell the story. It's our job to let people know. So share with me a little bit about the work that you're doing and continue to do in letting people know our history.
Okay, so as people know that I have been doing the Parkchester annual Kwanzaa event, and I have been doing that for over 10 years now. We're at St. Helena's Church, and we should be there again this year. Last year, of course, we were virtual. I also do a civics at the Parkchester Library. I try to bring awareness to being of service and what our civic responsibility is, and the chain of command of the civic responsibility, from the community board all the way up to how we elect the president. People need to know with your assembly person, what chairs they sit on, and also we need to hold them accountable as well. And also with this Juneteenth, we have did the flag raising at Brooklyn Borough Hall. The flag is still up, along with the red, black, and green flag is still up at Brooklyn Borough Hall. The Bronx Borough Hall, the flag still should be up there as well. Ruben Diaz did the honors, and I had other people from other organizations also helping out in that effort. I had Jocelyn LeBron. She's from 1199. She's a healthcare advocate. Ron Brown from Project African Restoration, and Esther P. Seabrook from Blacks in Government Region 2 Board of Directors. And also a part of the Juneteenth flag raising is that we also pay homage to our military because we were the first to die fighting for this country. We cannot forget the 1776 with Crispus Attucks that he died. So that's why the flag raising is so significant, because the military is a part of our history and all that we have died for this country. We have fought in every war on both sides, whether it was the British, the French. We have fought their wars, plain and simple. So I wanted to say also in Harlem, I had some pushback because I could not raise the flag on the state property, on the state pole. So and I also had my friend of mine, she has an organization, Aisha Saku from Street Corner Resources. She had her youth out there. And I faced a lot of, I can't even tell you, but I called up everyone from the mayor to the governor, and I sent letters and I educated. We're going to raise this flag on state property. I will be the first one, but I hope and pray that I am not the last. So they got it wrong. They called me back up the next day, the state, and they said, "Oh, Miss Oguamah, can you come back?" So I will be back this Saturday on the 19th, which is official Juneteenth Day, from 12 to 2 o'clock, raising that flag at, I call it the Harlem State Office Building. We know it as Adam Clayton Powell Jr., in front of his statue, which I know he will be smiling above us, knowing this. And that flag will stay up until June the 30th. How you like that, New York?
It's
So
awesome.
so everyone could see, take pictures, and also when they do, I hope that they do their research and find out a lot, because there's so many stories about Juneteenth. There's so many beautiful events about Juneteenth. And if they want to, National Juneteenth Observance, NJOF.org, people can also go onto that website. They can become members. They can also participate in the weekly phone conferences that we have with people from all over the country, talking about their experiences and how we have united together in this effort and pushing for Juneteenth.
Yeah. Thank you so much for being with us, Debra Oguamah, sharing a little bit about Juneteenth. And yes, important celebration at the Harlem State Office Building. Some people call it 7th Avenue. When you grew up in the Harlem, that's what we originally call it. But we know it's Adam Clayton Powell. And we're glad for your work and the work of celebrating Juneteenth. Debra Oguamah, our guest here on Perspectives. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. What a pleasure.
All righty. Well, that about wraps up this edition of Perspectives. I am Daren Jaime. For all of us on the set of Perspectives, take care. God bless. And we'll talk to you soon.
Anything relevant to life, you bring it to the table. Whether you make a move solo or a movement with a stable. No fables, you speak on your decisions. Cause in the long run, it's your voice, your views, your vision. Keeping it real with many messages for you to know. This ain't radio, but DJ runs the show. Entertainment